Hello everyone. In this video I am going to show you 3 sourdough recipes. A loaf of sandwich bread, orange cranberry muffins, and chocolate chip cookies. I am going to start out by saying that this is not going to be an especially aesthetic video, okay? It's not one of those type of cooking videos. I'm not that type of person. This is just gonna show you what my first experiences were like working with sourdough and doing these recipes, which means that it's not perfect. Okay, so to get started, in the original mixture, I have about a 1/3 cup sourdough starter and with 1 1/3 cup of water, heated up to 95 to 100 degrees, just use a food thermometer to test it, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. So I mix that up until it was dissolved. Also, whenever I say filtered water, I mean purified bottled water because I don't have a water filter. Okay, moving on. Added 3 1/2-ish cups of bread flour, 1 1/2 tablespoons of avocado oil because I didn't have the extra virgin olive oil that the recipe called for, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Mix that up with my wooden spatula thing until the dough was thick and shaggy. Then I floured my hands and mixed the rest with my hands until I didn't see any, obvious flour anymore. Covered that with a damp kitchen towel for 30 to 45 minutes, and then before I went to bed that night, I got it back out, stretched it into a rectangle, and you kind of go around the edges of the rectangle and stretch it and then push it down into the middle to form a circle. If you've watched any bread video, you know what I'm talking about. It's difficult to explain, but I forgot to record that. Sorry. I put it back into the bowl, covered it back up with damp washcloth, and let it rise overnight. It should double in size. However, I would recommend using saran wrap to cover it instead of a damp kitchen towel because the towel will dry out overnight and you get this dry skin over top of it. Yeah, it's gross.
That's a keeper. Yes.
After I get all the little bits of dryness off of it that I can, I'm going to once again stretch it out into a rectangular shape and dimple it in with my fingers to try to get some of that air to release. Then you kind of roll it up into a log and pull it towards you to tighten it says in the recipe. I've seen people do this. I don't really know what it means, and as you can see, I'm contemplating it here. And then I try doing something that I hope is right. But I wonder if I did a little bit too much, actually, in hindsight, and that's what made it so dense. Nevertheless, I can say that we ate all of this, so it was fine. Place your roll into your greased loaf pan, cover it, wait for it to rise for another hour or two until double in size, pop it in the oven at 375 for 40 minutes, and enjoy. Look at that. Looks good. It smells delicious. Let me turn the oven off. Okay, so I sliced into the bread and we ate it. Sorry you didn't see the slicing, but this is what the loaf looks like. I'm pleased, I guess. I think that it's a little too dense, but for my first attempt, she's pretty. Okay, and we have now introduced the kitchen scale. Beautiful, lovely. I put it down. I'm a little confused. I press on it. I don't know what I'm doing. I eventually figured it out. No instructions needed. Just kidding. It did come with instructions. Should have used them, but that's neither here nor there at this point. So, to get started, mix your wet ingredients together, which include 200 grams of sourdough starter. I only had 150, or I would have used every single last drop that I had. I do think that these would have turned out better if I had the full 200 grams, but gotta work with what you got. Into the starter, you add 2 eggs, 60 grams of vegetable oil, 50 grams of orange juice, which is about 1 large orange, or it was for me at least, and 5 grams of vanilla extract. Obviously, just whisk that together. Pretty simple. Now, I will say that for your dry ingredients, you need the zest of a large orange. So, of course, zest first, set the zest aside, and then juice your orange. Don't try to do it backwards. It won't work. So, that is my pro tip here. Probably the only good tip I have in this video. Oh, and the saran wrap thing. Okay, after that, you get all the wet ingredients mixed together, which, including the orange zest, is also 120 grams of dried cranberries, 200 grams of all-purpose flour, 70 grams of sugar, 12 grams baking powder, 5 grams salt, and 100 grams of a green apple. The recipe says to shred your green apple. I have no idea what that even means. I tried to use my cheese grater, thought this has got to be wrong, and used my microplane zester instead. The recipe says that it can be substituted with applesauce, and that gave me more of an applesauce consistency, so that's what I did. I guess I could have Googled it, but I didn't, and here we are. Okay, and after you have all of your dry ingredients mixed up and all of your wet ingredients mixed up, you mix those together, of course, until just mixed. This concept is still a little foggy to me, but I try my damnedest. After that, I fill up my 12 muffin tin after placing the liners in, and I bake at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. I also whipped up a really simple glaze with orange juice and powdered sugar, but these muffins felt like they were supposed to be healthy, so I went really skimpy whenever I put the glaze on. They were really good though. Oh yeah, and I also made a second loaf of bread this day at the same time that I made the muffins. I didn't go through the full process of making it again, of course, but I wanted to show it to you. I think it turned out a little bit better. Honestly, every single loaf that I've made has progressively gotten a little bit better, so I guess just takes practice and time. So yes, looks delicious. I put some butter on top while it's still warm so it gets all melty and shiny, and do some close-up shots to show you my masterpieces. Also, gotta slap it around a little bit so it knows that this is my house. I guess. I don't know. Okay. Okay, and moving on, sourdough chocolate chip cookies. So, first things first, you're going to take 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter, which is 1 stick, and cream it up, and mix it together with a cup of light brown sugar, which is about 210 grams, a half cup of granulated sugar, 96 grams. Cream that together is what I was trying to say. And this is very difficult to do with a hand mixer. I would not recommend it, but I don't have a stand mixer. So if that's your only option, like myself, I would recommend letting it come to room temperature first. That's not what the recipe told me to do, so I just grabbed it right out of the fridge and it was too hard. So leave it out on the counter for a bit. And along with the butter being room temperature, the recipe does call for 2 large eggs at room temperature and 1 tablespoon of milk at room temperature. So just add the butter onto the counter with those 2 things. After you have mixed together your butter and your sugars, you are going to add the eggs one at a time and mix well. You'll also add about a half cup or 100 grams of your active sourdough starter. You can also use sourdough discard for this recipe. You're going to also add in your tablespoon of room temperature milk and a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Mix that all together, set aside, and we'll get started on the dry ingredients, which is 1 3/4 cup or 238 grams of all-purpose flour, 1 1/2 cup or 204 grams of bread flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Add that mixture in batches to the wet ingredients. Mix it on low speed until just combined. After that, you're gonna get 300 grams of whatever chocolate you want. I used half milk chocolate, half semi-sweet chocolate chips, and you fold that in with the dough. Go ahead and cover your mixing bowl and chill the dough for an hour. Then preheat your oven to 350, scoop out your cookies onto a cookie sheet, and bake for 11 to 12 minutes until they are light golden brown. And as per usual, my cookies are too big, so they all come together to make this abstract big cookie shape, but they are delicious nonetheless. And unfortunately, this first batch I did not bake long enough. I just wanted to show you what that looks like. These went in the garbage. The rest were delicious, but it is a cakier, breadier cookie. And the recipe is supposed to yield 50, so you might want to cut it in half, just an FYI. Okay, hope you enjoyed. Love ya, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.